So I swapped that around and hooked the hard drive up. Oh dear. Stupid. I mean, I'm probably the stupid one here, but this is ridiculous. So there's that side. No, there's not that side. 3 little pieces of rice. 3 little pieces of rice. Got a couple of these AMD Athlons from 1999. You can see right there it says copyright 1999 AMD, assembled in Singapore. On the side, I've got a couple of these here. I was able to get the cooler and the heat sink, which is massive, off of this one, but this one appears to be affixed to the processor. So I did this to clean off the thermal compound so I can put some new one on that one to make sure that there's no heating problem, but I don't know, I took the brackets out of this one and it would not come off, and there were no screws, so I'm assuming that they actually attached it permanently, so that's kind of weird, but it's the same processor. These were the first gigahertz processors available to the general public, if I'm not mistaken. It's kind of interesting. They look like a Nintendo cartridge or something. As you can see, these wires come together and are grouped here in this fan cable from one end, so I want to make sure that it'll reach. So we're going to look inside the computer before we mess it all up and screw the paste up and have to start all over again, and make sure which direction that needs to go. So here we are looking at this beautiful thing. This is actually this old compact here. But I like it like this better, because this is one of those old cases that everybody hates, at least I do, that has to slide off of the whole thing, and it makes it a lot heavier. This case is a tank anyway, so I'm just gonna look in here and see what we've got. Do I have an option for, I guess not. Can't really make it any brighter at the moment. So let's check this out. Where is our connector? Okay, so it's here. So it looks to me like it could probably work either way. Let's just verify that real quick. These are sticking up. Sorry about the terrible camera work here. These are sticking up, and I can plug that in easily. Yeah. I think we'll orient it where they're sticking up, because let's see, if they're sticking up I can do this, whereas if they're down then this is going to be awkwardly coming in front of them, probably getting caught in the fans. So we'll orient it like that, so that when this plugs into the socket, these guys have their cable facing up. Okay, so I've decided on the orientation, and it's about time to apply the thermal compound, put this together, but I need to go to my mailbox and get my little $7 compound that I ordered in the mail. Apparently arrived yesterday, and I need to go grab it. Okay, so we're back with the thermal compound. So the moment of truth here, as we try to give ourselves 3 little, what is going on here? 3 little pieces of rice. 3 little pieces of rice. It's kind of like the song. 3 little pieces of rice. 3 little pieces of rice. 3 little pieces of rice. Keep away from children. If eaten, you may explode. 4 grams of absolute poison. Spectra Cool polysynthetic thermal compound. Oh yeah. Okay, so normally what you'd want to do with the processor, hi there, is just put it down on there and let it be. But since this is such a unique build, I'm gonna have to stupid. I mean, I'm probably the stupid one here, but this is ridiculous. So there's that side. No, there's not that side. So we will return once I have hopefully not destroyed the processor, but attached this stupid heatsink to it. I do believe with age and the removal process initially that this has become warped, because there seems to be no way on earth getting this bracket over here into that latch without great chaos and the destruction of the universe as we know it. Okay, this is embarrassingly rigged, but basically I managed to bend this into submission so that it latched in there. The awkward thing about this though is that is forced this into pushing here. The mystery is that, oh wait a minute, that's not latched down, right? Oh man, I was gonna say that it's holding in place, but I'm afraid that this is not going to properly transfer the heat because there's a little gap. The other awkward thing that I failed to mention, that when I was taking this off, this bracket bent. When I tried to bend it back into place, it broke off, which is just fantastic. This processor may be a lost cause because of this. These, I'm not sure if it was these particular models, but older AMDs would actually, just short of bursting into flame, would melt themselves and go up in smoke, literally, if you took the heatsink off. So I don't think with the heatsink partially on, it would go up in smoke, but I think the computer would be useless. So if I can't figure out a way to fix that little gap, we may be wasting our time on this project. Can he do it? Can he fidget his way back into the universe? Stay tuned to find out the answer to this question. Part of the problem is I can't get this bracket down in here now. These are supposed to bend together and work in unison, as that is a balanced actual one piece of metal that's going through the heatsink. But it no work! We got the bracket out. Now we are going to do crazy things to try to reform it. Reform yourself. Oh crap, I'm knocking stuff on the floor, man. Wait a minute, did that go in? Did that all go in at once? No, of course it didn't. Nobody likes me in here. For those of you who think I'm a complete idiot, that's fine. Just please be nice about it. And let me know in the comment section below how you're supposed to do this. Maybe my research has just not been thorough enough thus far, but I haven't been able to find too much information in my little time searching, I must admit, on how to properly extract one of these heat sinks and reset it in there. It seems like it should be pretty self-explanatory with what I know of heat sinks, but I can assure you this is not as easy as it looks here. I don't know what is going on with this mechanism. I'm pretty sure it's screwed up, but I'll keep whacking at it and see if I can figure it out. Okay, so I got the one side pinned down, and I'm currently working on a bit of a rigged solution for the broken bracket. And I will fill you in on that in a moment. So I had to do some adjustments to the bracket. It did indeed get bent on the extraction process, but I think we'll be okay. If this motherboard even works, which is another problem that we'll have to face in a bit. Okay, this is the most rigged thing ever, but okay, so these brackets are actually seated, and I'm a bit incredulous that this one is actually still seated, but it looks like it's clipped in there. So this one's in place for sure. You can see it going through. It's holding the heatsink flush to the top as we want it to. thermal compound is in there. This is the one that's broken off. And this little contraption is sort of holding that one in place. So let's hook it up and see if it works. Easy does it. Okay, we finally got the processor back in there. Now it's time to put this RAM sim in place. Beautiful. And it is a sim, as you can see. It's a single inline memory module. It's only on that side, and that's a whopping 128 megabytes of RAM. Ooh. Neat little device that I kind of came up with. If you go and get, recommended is 99% alcohol for most of this stuff, but 91 will do. It just takes longer to evaporate. Buy this bottle of alcohol. Buy a similarly priced bottle with a spray adapter on top of hydrogen peroxide, and just screw that right onto here, and you get a nice spray bottle of alcohol. Sprayed these out and sprayed off the sound and video cards there and their connectors, and wiped all the caked dust off of them so they look shiny and new. Very nice. Look at that 90s video card. Looking all sexy. So once the board finishes drying here shortly, I cleaned these out with Q-tips and everything. We should be about ready to rock and roll and at least power up and see if it'll post. Okay, it's time to get these cards down in here. I just finished cleaning them off with the, this is a classic PCI bus here. This computer has a, whoops, it doesn't have the typical, this is a compact, so it's got kind of a proprietary little dealie here, almost like what Apple has in their Mac Pro, and I think maybe their G5 system, maybe a lot of their desktops of old, which is you pretty much put the cards in, and then there's a slot here that goes in over it, except the Mac Pro has a slot that slides in nicely and has finger screws, and this has a piece that comes in over the back, and it's got notches to hold these in place. And I noticed these cards were leaning, so while I was preparing to fix the leaning problem, I decided to go ahead and clean the cards up and their connections and the slots that they go into. So hopefully we will get a nice deal here. Also, I guess I should mention that I took the there's a 56K modem in there, and obviously I have no intention of ever using such a thing again, so I took that out. It does leave an open slot in the PCI trays back here, but that's fine. Let's bring this thing back on here. There we go. And I will secure that in place, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I think I should point out that this computer, along with many that I'm going to be experimenting with, have been in a non-climate controlled area with extreme temperatures and varying humidity and all sorts of things like that for probably up to a decade. So I don't know if this is going to work, and part of the reason for that is this capacitor right here is bad, and you can tell that, if I can get it to focus, by the fact that it's bulging. Now, if you don't know much about these capacitors that are built like this, they have kind of a top built into them that if if there's extra pressure inside, the top bolt is up. That's typically a sign of a bad cap. So I might have to take that off of there and replace it if this does not work. So we're going to plug it in now. Have no drives hooked up whatsoever. Just want to see if it will basically post and see how that does. I did take the CMOS battery out and hold down the power button to drain the capacitance from the board. So we'll see what happens. I'm also going to be trying out a monitor that I just acquired for $8. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a 4x3, but can't beat $8 for that's a pretty large screen. So let's give it a shot. So, moment of truth. The only thing about this computer is that you have to turn it on with a screwdriver. That sounds noisy. What's going on in there? Oh dear. Well, that's happening. That's a good sign. I don't think it should be sitting there that long though. Our friend, the delete key doesn't seem to be working. And sometimes setups come in F2, F8, F10, 11, or 12. So we'll try those next. I'm concerned about this noise. Oh! That was just the back fan cable was inside of itself. There we go. All fixed. Well, as long as that is transferring the heat out, I don't know if it is or not. The back side of the processor is warm. Front side, this heatsink is cool. That might not be a good thing. Okay, well, let's see what we can do if I put a drive in it. Having a little fun here. One of these days I will, okay, I want to make sure that wasn't those IDE cables that you have to flip upside down. That used to happen sometimes with these older configurations. One of these days, as I was going to say, I might set up a tripod so that I don't have to try to film with one hand and do everything that way. But for now, let's see, if I plug this in here, I don't think that it's going to extend far enough. Wait a minute. It might, actually. I think it will. Okay. I didn't know if that would extend down to the floppy drive if I plugged this in here. Alright. So, we're getting a couple drives plugged in. Gonna see if I also hooked the analog audio up to the sound card, which is pointless at this point if this thing doesn't work. Now, if this computer is a failure, once I get some more video cards in my hands and things, I might mess with that configuration. I mean, anything could be wrong in here. Anything. It could be that capacitor. It could be the video card. It could be the sound card is screwed up somehow and causing things not to boot or to post. It could be RAM. I mean, there's a lot of proprietary stuff going on here too, and it's possible that Compaq set it up where it won't boot unless it has a bootable drive. And I think we're in the era here where I actually would have to have a Windows boot diskette, which sucks because I don't have one. I have not used floppies for over a decade. I don't know how I would even go about getting one of those in here right now or creating one. So even though I got these other computers here, that one doesn't have a floppy drive in it. Comically enough, I think that floppy drive might be in my main computer right now. Unplugged, but in there. This was my main computer for a long time. I rebuilt this many times, if I'm not mistaken. In this case, it has a floppy drive as well, but once again, it does not have a hard drive in it. It doesn't have an operating system. Got all these old computers back from my parents, and decided to collect old, seemingly useless technology so that I could play with it and experiment. And it would be awesome to see like a distribution of Linux would run on this. If it would, I don't know if it would, but it would also be cool to have different versions of vintage Windows. This machine came with Windows 98. That's what was on this. So this was a Windows and DOS machine originally. So great for playing DOS games, and not too awfully bad. Not the best graphics card in the world there, but not terrible. You can see it's got a heat sink on it. But again, there's so many things that could be at fault here. I don't know why it's not posting. All we're getting is the splash screen for the Compag, and that's it. So I'm concerned that something's wrong here. But we're going to try to boot it up, stick a Windows disk in there, and hope for the best. But if I can't get to the BIOS screen to change CMOS around and tell it what drive is bootable and all of that, then there's not much I can do except to mess around with the hardware and see if I can ever get it to post, basically. Alright, so we're gonna try to boot it up again, see if anything's different now that it's got some drives hooked up to it. We'll be back. Well, we got this, so that's good. There is hope. I do not know why I cannot get a CMOS screen to pop up on this computer, but it is now saying operating system not found after posting through, well, the Compag. Maybe post is hidden on this machine's BIOS. That would suck. There might be some kind of a proprietary combination that needs to be used to get into this. Maybe I should look that up. If I can find the model on this, perhaps I can figure out a hidden post sequence. Isn't it lovely when computer companies do that? That's pure speculation at this point, but if it's gotten this far, I'm assuming it has posted and it's looking for an operating system, but none of the typical CMOS keys are working. So, let's see what we can find. Look at this! I restarted it, I hit delete, and we have boot from CD-ROM available. Now, I do not have a hard drive put in this yet, but I am excited to see that that is working. Spinning up, starting Windows 98. Honey macaroni. Let's see, what does it say? Start Windows 98 from CD-ROM. So computer with CD-ROM is port. Uh-oh. I wonder if it's overheating or something. It's not working. It just stopped. Oh crap. Well, I'm going to try this one more time. And if it does it again, I think what we've got is an overheating processor. So if I restart it again and it freezes on this, that's what we've got. In which case, I might actually try to switch it out with that other Athlon I was showing you earlier and see if that works. And if it does, then well, wait a minute. That's something. That's working. Okay. I say that's working. I don't know if it is or not. Is the heatsink on the computer, on the CPU, is not even warmer than cool. And the back side of the processor is actually hot, like painful to touch. So I'm going to turn this thing off, swap CPUs, and see if the other one is good. Sometimes my working conditions are a little bit sketchy, so you'll just have to brace me with your
just try to enjoy and not cringe too much. I do have a wrist strap on, so that, at least that's happening. What is going on? Get this out of the way. Okay, good. Yeah, this is definitely confirming my suspicion, which I was pretty certain about in the first place, but the processor is definitely overheating. The heatsink is basically not even attached to the processor. What the heck is going on? These things are like trying to take an elephant out of a Honda Accord. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Come on! Are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, what the crap is even holding this thing on right now? I know I look like an idiot, but this has actually been released. Like, I don't understand why it's stuck in there. Maybe I should lay the computer completely down again. This should come out easily. Like, that socket stand is the dumbest thing in my personal opinion. Now, I think a lot of people really liked the concept of this processor, and I like the concept of it. It's just not always an easy thing to put in and take out. It is essentially off the board. That's not the problem. I can't get it out of this freaking plastic thing. It's stuck in there. So excuse me while I rearrange everything, put this on my desk, and try again. Okay, make sure that orientation is right since this processor comes from a different computer. So what I was trying to tell you guys is I was having trouble getting this processor out of here earlier, or the other processor, because, oh, dang it, I didn't put this heatsink brace in there. This is a piece of dirt, man. I'll tell you what. Okay. I was having trouble getting that other one out, partially because what just moved? I felt something move. I don't know what it was, but it made me nervous. Maybe it was that. Let's hope it was that. I felt the other processor move. I mean, I am not using my words properly. I felt the other processor was getting stuck, rather, in this part of the brace that I was just having to reattach to the board, probably because it came loose at the base like that. But also, the heatsink was stuck to something on the board. Like, I don't even know how that was possible. I couldn't see what it was stuck to. But somehow, one of the pieces of the brace stuck up into it, apparently, and it was stuck on that. So, there were two things holding me back in that regard. Hopefully, this time will be a more positive experience. Now, I'm going to plug this in to the fan port, if it will cooperate. Stuff is standardized, so there shouldn't be a problem as long as I can cooperate. There we go. Okay, well, let's get things back together and see what happens. Okay, moment of sort of truth. See what happens here. Spinning up the drive. I don't have a hard disk in there right now. Let's see if this baby has a live disk. Oh. Enter a choice 1. Did I bump something? I don't know. Start Windows 98 setup from CD-ROM.
Please tell me it's not going to stop there again. I don't know what's happening. No? Seems like this processor's staying cooler, but it looks like once again, maybe this is happening because there's not actually a hard drive. I don't know. Let's see if Control Alt Delete works. No, the computer is frozen. That's not good. Well, crap. So I decided we're at a point in this crossroads, or wherever we are in the journey, to install this massive drive. As you can see, it has 16 heads and is whopping 2 gigabytes. Wow. So we're going to install this bad boy, and it doesn't have a jumper. Whoops. I don't know where the jumper is. But the good news is that you don't need a jumper for single drive setup. So we're going to put this in there and see what happens. Well, this should be interesting. If nothing else, maybe it'll give us a little bit of a different show. I realized that a stupid thing that I did on my part was I put the IDE set up backwards. I had the CD drives hooked into the primary IDE adapter on the motherboard. So I swapped that around and hooked the hard drive up. Oh dear. That sounds really bad. That hard drive obviously is not in good shape. Either that or the disc was in there crooked. Let's see if this thing works. Okay, can we... Ah, look at that. It's the first time I've been able to do in there. It stops. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Why is that happening? So I'm getting a weird and intriguing response from this mixture of configurations here. I'm guessing that both of these hard drives are bad, because every time I get to this point, basically what I did is I removed the second CD-ROM drive, and now instead of 2 it says number of drives 1. And I don't know if that's just, I mean, in context it's right below the CD-ROM driver, but anytime I try to start the Windows 98 from CD-ROM, you know, essentially there's one drive now that there's one CD drive plugged in and one hard drive, and I've used 2 hard drives. I'm assuming that they're both bad because I don't hear this one spin up at all, and I heard the other one like scream. So I'm guessing that both of those old hard drives are completely shot. I don't know. So I guess we will get back to this when maybe we have a old hard drive that we can put in here and hopefully it works.